Donald Trump unfortunately won the 2024 election with respect to both the popular vote and the Electoral College vote. However, he and his allies have been radically overstating the strength of his victory, forcing liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov, whom Trump is on the record as despising, to hit him where it hurts in front of Fox viewers, and it was glorious. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, it's been a minute since we've discussed Jessica Tarlov, whose job in legacy media is unparalleled. It's extremely difficult. She's the one voice of sanity on Fox's highest rated show, The Five, where she is outnumbered 4-1 by MAGA Republicans. Now, she is smarter than all of them. She's more honest than all of them. She has a greater command of the facts than all of them. But I imagine it's quite dispiriting given the fact that whether we like it or not, their guy won and our woman lost. That sucks. I hate that. And I imagine Jessica Tarlov does too. However, she has found a way to hit Trump where it hurts, which I really appreciate because we can, as I mentioned in a previous video, we got to look for the silver linings and, you know, the small victories when and where we can find them. And so Jessica Tarlov really makes a point to emphasize the fact that Donald Trump doesn't really have a mandate and doesn't have the commanding lead that he, MAGA, and her 4 MAGA co-hosts want us to believe.
One thing, though, that and I'm not saying that there isn't a lot of work to do, because there absolutely is. For people who are talking about this as if we got completely decimated, the numbers don't bear that out. So Trump didn't cross 50% of the popular vote. So the majority of Americans didn't vote for him. And Senate Democrats performed really well. So people like Ruben Gallego, Tammy Baldwin, Jackie Rosen in Nevada, they ran 7-8 points ahead of Kamala Harris, which is what was predicted. And that does show that this normie coalition can't exist. It was that Trump had a special sauce at the top of the ticket for a lot of people.
So one of the things that you've been hearing a lot is that basically Donald Trump should be able to do whatever the hell he wants because he has a mandate. He has a sweeping mandate. Damn it, he dominated the 2024 election. But that's actually not true. And Jessica Tarlov is right. I mean, votes are still being counted. As a matter of fact, you know, mail-in and absentee ballots, you know, it's not enough to change the outcome of the election. And Vice President Harris has already formally and publicly conceded. But Donald Trump is actually under 50%. He has not won a majority of the vote. Now, perhaps he will once again when all of the votes are finally tabulated. But as of right now, Trump has only won a plurality of the vote. President Clinton won a plurality of the vote, I believe, is in his first election. Now, when you have more than your other competitors and you win the Electoral College, that's it, right? I mean, a win is a win, to be sure. But this idea that Donald Trump, who has always been historically unpopular, he lost the popular vote to Secretary Clinton in 2016. He lost the popular vote to President Biden in 2020. This idea that now he is just resoundingly popular. And so anything this man wants to do is justified by the strength of his, you know, victory and the vote count is just not true. And there have been a couple of really good articles that I think are worth reading. So the Washington Post actually dropped this yesterday. Trump's 2024 mandate isn't as robust as Biden's was in 2020. The outcome of 2024 looks like a mix of 2020 and 2004, not 2008 or even 2020. A lot of early analysis of the 2024 presidential election has suffered from 3 overlapping problems. First, that the vote margins can be influenced by changes in turnout as well as changes in vote preference. If voters stay home, the candidate they would have supported receives fewer votes. And it looks like a lot of 2020 voters stayed home in 2024. But second, not as many as one might have thought in the first few days after the election. Many immediate analyses of what happened exaggerated the decrease in Democratic votes or suggested that Donald Trump won an outright majority of votes cast, both errors that were a function of failing to consider, particularly California's sizable, slow to count vote total. The third problem is that the shift to Trump in the voting, real and widespread, is being conflated with broad support for Trump, which is far less dramatic. It's the difference between noting that exit polls show Trump fared much better with voters under 30 than he did in 2020, and acknowledging that he lost that age group to Vice President Harris. He didn't lose them by as much, but he still lost them. That's key, which again overlaps with other problems. Our analysis suggests the improvement came as a number of younger voters fell relative to 2020. Harris lost votes relative to Biden. Trump got about the same number of votes from people under 30 that he got 4 years ago, according to exit polls anyway, which is a big caveat. In the week since Trump won, he and his allies have energetically attempted to conflate the shift with a broad mandate. At times, they point to an electoral college vote landslide taking advantage of the amplifying effects of the Electoral College to suggest more robust support for Trump than exists. You can see the effects of the Electoral College below. The inner circles almost always show more dramatic margins than the outer ones, a reflection of the winner-take-all allocation of the electoral votes in most states and most years. And so they give examples going starting with 1864. So that would have been the re-election of President Lincoln, all the way to 2024, the re-election of Donald Trump. In 2016, Trump lost the popular vote but won 57% of electors, thanks to fewer than 100,000 votes nationally. In 2020, President Biden won 50% of electors thanks to a slightly larger number of votes in several states. Now, in 2024, current data indicate that Trump will win 58% of electors thanks to 233,000 votes in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Take those away or see improvement to that extent for Harris, and Trump's victory vanishes. As more votes have been counted, Trump also suffered another blow to his mandate claim. The percent of votes he has earned fallen below 50% and is unlikely to recover. This was very predictable based on the outstanding vote, but it's still noteworthy. Most voters voted for someone besides Trump. That was not the case for Biden in 2020. It was also not the case for Barack Obama and his vice president, Joe Biden, in either 2008 or 2012. And it goes on like this. In fact, Trump has so far received only 2 million more votes than he did in 2020, an increase of only 3%. By contrast, Biden received 15 million more votes in 2020 than Hillary Clinton had in 2016, an increase of 23%. So the point is that when Republicans say, and we'll probably do multiple stories on this because a surprising number of people, including people in Trump's at least ideological orbit or, political affiliation, have come out and said, he really needs to tamp down this notion of a mandate to justify whatever the hell he wants, because he just doesn't have one. Now, he can, as The Independent points out, he can claim the title of being the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years, but that says more about the quirks of the Electoral College and the popularity of Republicans than it does about the man himself. The other thing I want to say before I play this next clip of Jessica Tarlov is consider the headwinds that Vice President Harris was facing. I mean, again, a win is a win. Donald Trump won. There is no evidence of voter fraud. There is no evidence of illegitimate action. Did he play the game cynically? Did he play the game ruthlessly? Absolutely. Did he advantage himself, or rather exploit the advantages that were there because of an inattentive electorate? People who have very short attention spans. Again, I can say this. I agree with Mehdi Hassan that the American people, we have the memory of goldfish. We're like Finding Dory, right? It's just so easy for us to forget the last year of Trump's presidency and to forget the fact that, much of what he did well, or what we think he did well during his first 3 years, was because of, Obama era economic trends, right? He didn't snap his fingers and create the U.S. economy single-handedly. He inherited a pretty good economy from Barack Obama, kept it humming along for 3 years, made some improvements in some areas, some decreases in others, including job growth, I might add. And then in the third or the fourth year, the whole economy collapses on his watch due to his mismanagement of COVID. The American people have forgotten about that. The American people also forgot about the January 6th insurrection, or rather, they don't associate the visceral emotions with it, the fact that he was a sitting president and tried to coup the government. So he's advantage there. He's also advantage of a global anti-incumbency surge. But the fact of the matter is, if you compare Vice President Harris's performance to other incumbent governments who experienced elections over the past year, including in Western democracies, Harris did among the best. But every incumbent government, liberal, conservative, it doesn't matter. The United Kingdom had conservative governance for like 15 or 16 years, and they got shellacked and kicked out. And now a totally different party is in control of Downing Street in the United Kingdom. The point is, despite those headwinds, he doesn't have a mandate. And that's Jessica Tarlov's point. But he's going to continue to try to say that in order to justify sweeping changes to U.S. law, to the tax code, and to install his flunkies who are wildly unqualified, controversial, morally bankrupt. And he's going to say, well, I won the popular vote. Meanwhile, these same people, by the way, talking about that would never have accepted that if the shoe were on the other foot. But we'll probably talk about that in a separate video. Here's Jessica Tarlov, also from the same episode, pointing out another hypocrisy from MAGA Republicans when it comes to celebrity endorsements.
So I guess we've gotten to the portion of the Trump era where we have moved past shut up and dribble. And now it is fantastic for athletes to be talking about their politics or expressing their politics, because that was one of the critical points when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, when LeBron James was speaking out. And I get it. Donald Trump wants to take a victory lap, and he won, and he should. And I think that liberals are doing the right thing, and they are thinking about how his coalition was formed, what part of our coalition was lost in order for him to make that win. But I don't think that kind of bragging that the people who don't consume the news are the ones that are winning in this, because that is dangerous. And I'm not saying that there weren't people on the news who misinformed their listeners. We're going to be talking about this in a later block. I think that a lot of people did their fans or followers a big disservice there. But it is a bad situation for the country to be in if people don't trust the people in these positions. And that doesn't mean that they don't have to live up to a certain standard. But I do think that's dangerous. And there was a new study out about the majority of people who voted for Trump rely on friends and family.
But how is it? Can you just tell me, you say it's dangerous. No one ever asked the follow-up question. Can you tell me how it's dangerous?
Well, we're going to also talk about RFK Jr. later. I think vaccine skepticism is dangerous. Also dangerous to be on TV and not speak English properly. I think those kinds of things are dangerous. I think.
Yeah, the idea is that, people who are ill-informed or misinformed, which if you look at the studies is overwhelmingly Fox News viewers compared to CNN or MSNBC, that is dangerous because they're not making rational decisions, or rather they're not making the decisions based on the best available evidence. Now, it's still their decision to make, which is why I've been saying from the beginning, it's great to have facts on your side. But if you're not able to successfully parlay those facts into, persuasive vibes, then it doesn't matter because vibes will always win. How you feel, Ben Shapiro always said, facts don't care about your feelings, gang. And yet he represents a movement that, will gleefully throw facts aside for the sake of their feelings. But what Jessica Tarlov was saying at the beginning is really the important part, because we're seeing this trend now. Donald Trump showed up at the UFC when the UFC fighters, did the Trump two-hand gesture dance. And of course, MAGA's going wild. Oh, that's so great that this famous athlete, is endorsing Trump or celebrating Trump. Even if it's not an endorsement, he's doing something favorable to Trump. He's expressing favorable political views. But the same people criticize, or rather the same people celebrating that, were also the same people who have told celebrities and athletes and celebrity athletes to shut up and just dribble or sing if they're musicians or whatever, just play your instrument when they expressed political views that they don't like. So when Taylor Swift gives her political opinion, shut up, you're supposed to sing. Kid Rock, on the other hand, talk as much about politics as you want. Same thing here. And the hypocrisy is staggering. But again, they don't care. I mean, if you saw when the video panned out while Jessica Tarlov was talking, Jesse Waters and Jeanine Pirro were kind of looking down, smiling, because to the extent that they're stupid, they're not that stupid. They do know, like, yeah, actually, this is hilarious. We don't want liberal and progressive celebrities to speak their minds at all. We want them to be quiet and silent, but we do want conservative politicians, or rather conservative celebrities, to speak out. They have the right to do it. Liberals and progressives don't. And yeah, the shamelessness is their superpower. They don't care. So Jessica Tarlov is saying something very true, but Jesse Waters and Jeanine Pirro don't care. They're happy to exploit that asymmetry to their benefit, which is precisely what they're doing. So great masterclass performance by Jessica Tarlov, again, who I imagine, she already had the toughest job in media, but now in light of a Trump victory, where Republicans are going to, again, they've won the Senate, they've won the House, they have a supermajority on the Supreme Court, and Trump is back in power. It's going to be a long 4 years for a lot of us. And in her own way, Jessica Tarlov is going to be feeling it uniquely. Godspeed. Godspeed. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.